Hello and welcome to Personable, a podcast focused on speaking to the world's best, enabling you to become the best that you can be. My name is HarveyBracken-Smith, and today I am doing an episode in memory of my mum, Louise Bracken-Smith. Tonight at 9:30, it's actually 2.5 hours before the anniversary of my mother passing away. Last year, I filmed a podcast talking about my mum's cancer journey, the learnings, what it was like going through the grief and the repercussions ever since. Now, 2 years on, myself and my immediate family members are in a much better place, having had more time to think about what happened, to reflect and to move on. I decided that as a testament to my mum, as long as I can remember, I'm going to keep making an episode every single year in her memory to talk not only about what she taught me, but also about the learnings I've taken from her and what I've learned going through life in her memory. A big part of what my mum taught me was be the best you can be. And my family have always been focused on being the best we can be, whether that be academically, socially, sports-wise, school-wise, in every single facet of life. And then that does not mean to achieve excellence outright in every area. But what it does mean is do your best where you can in the areas that you're interested in. And for my mum, her life did not always focus on simply getting the most shareholder returns or making the most amount of money, but really living a life that was worth remembering. For her, she traveled for multiple years, did a few ski seasons in Canada. She built her own business to over 200 employees, which was worth millions and millions, or maybe even tens of millions of pounds, all through what she's built with her and her business partners. But that doesn't truly sum up who my mum was and what she wanted for me, my siblings, my dad, and the rest of our family. What's different about my mum compared to a lot of other parents out there in how one would think about them with regard to loss is my mum wasn't just a person. She was a collection of morals and ways of being that I, my siblings, and my dad have been able to take forward. And that's how we remember her moving forward. And so when you hear me talk about everything I've learned and everything I'm doing moving forward, every single part of that is a direct reflection of who my mum was. Because, if you spend time with someone 365 days a year, 19 years of your life, you're pretty much going to engulf yourself, become that sort of person. Since my mother has passed away, my little sister Georgie has won the national cricket. She's got into one of the best schools in the world, St Mary's Ascot. She's happy and smiling every day, made some of her best friends around, and has continued to push forward even with all the challenges a 10-year-old would face having lost their mum. My brother Max has been selected for the Saracens Academy. He's just done his GCSEs. Socially, he has been friends with everyone and pushed himself forward to show Max Bracken-Smith, not in terms of just being the best version Max can be, but being the best version that Max can be for everyone else. And Max often puts those around him before himself. My brother Freddie has been in a sort of limbo. He was head boy at Eton, absolutely smashed his A-levels, getting all A stars. And then since that point in time, his dream has been to become a professional rugby player. He left school, was on a sports scholarship to Trinity College in Dublin, went on and played for the Irish national team at under-18s, coming third in the European Cup, even captaining a few games. He's played in both the Saracens and Ulster academies, and now he's at a turning point in which he's decided to go all in. And now he's dropping out of university for a year and will be playing at an academy, which will be announced in the coming weeks. My dad has been working diligently on Concilium Global Advisors, his headhunting company, as well as making his passion and life of the draft come into fruition. And with all the failings that have happened in the years prior with the draft in terms of not having the right team, not the right product, instead of simply saying this is a bust and stopping, he has had so much conviction in his idea and his ability to make it happen that he's taken all of those learnings into a full launch that is happening in the next coming quarter. Myself, I've continued to push myself at Duke. I've achieved a 3.99 and a 4-point GPA in the year, including making the Dean's List. I helped take Duke Rugby from 180th in the country to 3rd in the country twice, making it #1 ranked in the whole of the USA for Division 3, and have helped raise more than $330,000, which I think is one of the most for a club sport ever at Duke and also across the nation. I accepted an internship in markets at Goldman Sachs, and my podcast has now interviewed more than 70 of the world's best in their given fields. Not a single one of those accomplishments would have been possible without my mum or my dad. You see, the way that my family and I think about success is not thinking about things on an individual basis. It's not simply, how can I achieve this to look better to other people? But by thinking deeply within the inside, where do I want to be in a 3 months' time, in a year's time, in 5 years' time, and what are the steps to get there? See myself, it's been very academic, name brands, now going from Eton to Duke to Goldman to, continuing to build on that path. Whereas my brother Freddie has similarly gone to Eton, but now he's in a position to scrap and even drop out of university to go fill in on rugby. Max and Georgie find their own paths, and my dad is using his career to build a startup. So being the best you can be is not just focused on excellence in and of itself, but it's finding what you're truly interested in and taking that to the limit. What has been the grief 2 years on from having lost my mum? I think those immediate 3 months were particularly hard. The first month or so, I actually started at Duke University, and so I was very focused on making new friends. But beyond that point, when all the novelty of university life had worn off, actually coming to the realization that my mum was no longer there, someone I, looked up to, been loved by, loved every single day of my life, and spoken to for hours on FaceTime for years and years and years, to no longer have that, it became particularly apparent. Whereas now, as we've kind of got used to not having mum in the regularity of life, it's become more of the norm. I think particularly when you have arguments or hardship, that is when the loss of our mum becomes so apparent. My brother's sister, dad, and I had to face so many evils from so many directions, from grief, the impact of others in business, school, or otherwise, as both a consequence of my mother's passing and otherwise. And so not having someone there that would always be happy, have a strong emphasis on the bringing together of people. My dad and I much more focused on the long-term, the implications, but my mother more focused on living in the moment. I think when you don't have that yin and yang sort of balance, you really noticed what was previously there. All of us, as shown by our accomplishments, have been doing very well in the past 2 years extrinsically, but it's also been a big focus intrinsically, because if you're not right on the inside, you're not going to achieve anything on the outside. And even if you are, it's not going to be lasting change. Another realization from the past 2 years is that losing a brother, mother, a parent, a close friend is much more apparent than you realize. Many of my close friends have also lost parents in the last few years, lost brothers. And it's the realization that it's, give what you can to that person, but also focus on what do they need. In that moment, it's not, I feel sad that they might be sad when you have no idea. Let me smother them with love. Let me smother them by texting them or calling them or forcing yourself onto them every day, when it's actually about asking them what they need, checking in every week or every month or every few months, but not too excessively. Because what can otherwise happen is you have a situation which you sort of love bomb them when you find out, one of your friends' parent or whatever is ill. And then as they're going through that process, and even just after the death, you're sort of love bombing them with food, with presents, with attention. But naturally, as your own life gets in a way, that sort of stops. And so it goes from attention to a strong drop off, whereas you just need more consistent friendship throughout time. My mum will never be replaced, and will never be the goal of me, my siblings, or my dad. What my mum has taught me is the ability to know that I can be loved and to know that I can give love to people. It's the knowledge that there are people that are willing to push themselves beyond their limits and do things that are both seen as internally and externally as impossible. It's the willingness to have a hard day and to put one foot in front of the other, not because you know what will happen, but because you know you're better off to keep moving than not move at all. It's the knowledge to know that growing old might not be the best thing in the world, but to know that you would rather grow older than not grow old at all. It's the knowledge to know that the people standing to your left and right, your colleagues, your friends, your brother, your sister, your dad, are not to be taken for granted, because one moment turns into the next moment, turns into the next moment, until it's gone. And that state of permanence is a very hard thing to reckon with as a kid, as an adult, or even as an elderly person, because what was once there will never be there again. And so it is not to be all doom and gloom about what could be or what couldn't be in the future, but to realize that you are living in a moment, and as routine takes over, to continually bring yourself back to reality and realize just how good you have it. A common mistake that I've noticed myself and my family members make over time is to think this person has it worse, or I could be worse. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't take drugs. I train in the gym, but maybe not always as much as I should. I push myself in my rugby with my academics. And it's not even the focus of I must be doing more and I must constantly break through new barriers. But it's also not to tell myself to give up. It's also not to tell myself, hey, I'm going to the gym once a week, that I'm better than the person that doesn't. I'm having one dessert instead of having 2 a day. It's not about catastrophizing yourself and making yourself worse just because something's happened. It's about accepting what has happened and taking that as a decision. Do you let that circumstance dictate your life? Do you let it engulf you? Or do you take it as a point of reference and use it as a springboard to make yourself better moving forward? I wrote down some sentences and things that I thought were particularly interesting learnings, which I wanted to share, and I think they could be very useful for you as a listener. Many of these have been inspired by things that I've learned from my mum. Make life happen for you, not to you. This was at the core of what mum's life was about. And even from the point of when she had the cancer diagnosis to when she died, she was always making life happen for her. You see, many people complain about having too much money, too little money, being fit, fat, anywhere in between with any scale of where they are in life. You're autistic, you're not. You're normal, you're not. But actually, it's about taking where you are and taking steps to get from where you are to where you want to be, or even where you are, accepting that and enjoying life just as it comes. I feel like so many of us could just accept life, or make us, if you're suddenly told you're going to die in 60 days, do you lie in your bed and willow away and think about all the things that could have happened? Or do you make life happen for you? You see, my mum, even when she was bedridden and she tried to make the most of every single day. She was very healthy, but 3 days before she died, or a week before she died, she told me, "Hey Harvey, I want a McDonald's. So can you go and get a McDonald's for me?" She told my brother Freddie, "Can you go get me an ice cream?" And even those small little details of just joy, of experiencing something, is something that we should take with us every single day. If every single day you do something that you enjoy and you make life happen for you, you will have lived a life and made memories that will be much better had you not done that. I touched on this before, but bad things are going to happen to you inevitably. It's about what you do next. So many times in life, there are so many circumstances that happen to our immediate friends, family, things that happen to ourselves, whether losing a job, getting a health condition. And it's not to hope or wish that these things won't happen, because inevitably they will. You're going to have good moments and you're going to have bad moments, even if they're just comparably worse than the good moments. And it's about taking that as a point of reference and realizing that you do have a decision to make. You can't control what's going to happen to you. You can't control getting fired, having a health condition, or one of your immediate friends or family suffering an illness. What you can control is being the best brother, sister, friend, better in your next job, start a business, whatever it is, get healthier, spend more time with your loved ones. These are all just active decisions that you can make. And I tell you that even if you can't control, there was nothing that we could have done to make our mum's illness better. I spent hours researching what could be done, and at the end of the day, there was nothing that I could do to stop her illness. But what I did do is I used it as an excuse to get fitter, to get mentally healthier, to work hard at school. And that's why the strong emphasis on accomplishments is so important within my family, is because that's what keeps us going and waking up every day, to know that tomorrow is going to be better than the day before, and to know that we'll hopefully leave this earth, or that we will leave this earth, having left our mark, or having left it a little bit better than we found it before. When you're a kid and you see your parent, you sort of grow up only having known your parent at that point in time. It's quite hard to realize that they did live an existence before you. And so when my mum passed away, she was at the brink of nearly retiring. She was getting into killer shape. She was spending much more time with my siblings and I, having been the CEO of a very successful business. But what was really weird to me and really upsetting was the idea that I felt that she hadn't really lived. I was completely wrong in this instance, because my mum had told me stories upon stories of all the amazing things that she'd done. But it's to say that life can be taken away from you at any moment. And when it doesn't have to be as catastrophic as suffering from cancer, or losing a job, or losing a best friend. It can be as simple as losing an opportunity, or living a day and not doing something fun, or putting a smile on someone's face. You see, every single day that we get is a gift. And it's so easy to forget that, because in the moment it feels like we're going to live forever. And it's only when it's taken away that we realize that forever is a lie, and that we're only meant to live for a limited amount of days. So even if it's just today after you listen to this podcast, go out and do one thing that will make you happy, that will make those around you happy. And whether there is a God or not, at least you will know that you left the earth a bit better than you found it, and that you lived a life worth living. At the core of the last podcast, when I gave a podcast about 1 year since our mother passed away, I talked about two key things: control the controllables and be the best you can be. And these weren't just the two things that I remember the most from my mum, but these have been the two core mantras within our lives, within the Bracken-Smiths' lives, that have kept us to keep going. Control the controllables and be the best you can be, as I've touched on multiple times throughout this podcast, are not pure excellent metrics. It's not, as a CEO, make the most money you possibly can by all means necessary. It's not about do as much fitness as you can in a day by all means necessary. It is about taking where you are, and within that metric of where you are, doing the best you physically can and controlling what you can, And then if you can't control something, or you can't be better, or you need a data reset, that's totally fine, because it's creating a sustainable level of success that bears on you not just for the day, the week, or for the year, but takes you year on year on year to that ultimate progression. I mean, we hear about these YouTubers, millionaires, Bitcoin billionaires, all people, celebrities, NFL stars, NBA players who reach the pinnacle of success, of money, of fame, of politics. And then a few years later, they're not even to be heard of, because they've reached that level of success and think, I have it all. When actually having it all is not about the things that you're told you have. It's not about the prestige. It's not about everyone else telling you how great you are. It's about living from day to day and truly walking the walk, doing what you enjoy doing and leaving a positive impact on those around you. If my mum had it her way, we would all be still living in the little island we were born on. 45 square miles, 9 miles by 5. My mum grew up there from the age of 14 all the way up until she died at 50. My siblings and I were all born on the island, myself now being 21, my brother being 19, my other brother being 16, nearly 17, and my sister being 10. And so when your entire existence is on an island, that's all you can really know as existing. And obviously, being a mother, like most mothers, you would want your kids in close proximity to you. But my parents realized that the best thing for my siblings and I was actually not to stay on the island and to spend more time with our parents, but to throw us in the deep end. It's better to be a big fish in a huge pond than it is to be a big fish in a little pond, because then you have no ability to grow. If you put a shark in a small tank, it will only grow the size of the container. But if you put a shark in the ocean, it will grow bigger than you can have imagined. But there is something in that with my parents' unselfishness to send us away, to send their little kids away at 13, at 10, at 11, 12 years old, that created us and made us into the people we are today. And that's a very specific example, but whether it's leaving a relationship, a job, starting a business, putting yourself on social media when no one's watching, that takes guts. And it's the willingness to do the hard things that makes you better off than you were before. No one wants to create a business that loses money. No one wants to post on social media when no one's watching. No one wants to make music that they know their first 100 fans will hate because it's so bad and the music's not right and not bad and it's badly put together. But you have to make those first few fuck-ups to get to that perfection. No one just stumbles on perfection straight away. You have to put in the hours. You have to make the mistakes. And only then will you find success or even know what success looks like. Because if you haven't failed, how can you know what works? After I got into Eton, I felt incredible. I wasn't supposed to get into a school as good as Eton College. My parents didn't go to schools like it. And coming from an island like Jersey, where it wasn't the normal thing to do, it felt extra special. But immediately after I got in, and as a 10-year-old getting in, going through all the praise, I started to notice something that annoyed me. And it happens straight after I got into Duke and also after I got into Goldman Sachs. And bear in mind, I'm only 21 years old, and with a life expectancy of 80, 90, 100, I'm barely a quarter, 20th, or, if we live to 200, 10% of my life of the way through. But people tell me, Harvey, you've made it. Or Harvey, you're really successful. Or Harvey, I could never do the things that you're doing. And I don't even think I'm at the tip of achieving any form of success. Going to a school, getting an internship is not even close to where I picture myself of the things that I want to achieve. And it's not to say that I'm doing well or that I'm doing not well, but it's the limiting beliefs that people my own age, people that are younger than me, people that are older than me, people that are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, these limiting beliefs are stopping them from achieving success. The person with a lot of connections versus the person with no connections, the rich man versus the poor man, the educated person versus the uneducated person. These are not permanent states of being. These are a snapshot of a place in time that you are, and they are not necessarily where you will be in the future. So if you see someone with more connections, more educated than you, richer than you, more hardworking than you can take that and you can learn from it. But don't ever tell yourself they're better than you are. Because the difference between you and them is a bit of hard work, it's risk, and it's the willingness to open yourself up to those opportunities. If you never tell yourself you're going to go for the acting role, that you're going to go through that trial for that football or rugby performance, that you're going to try and get into the most incredible bank or technology firm on the planet, but you don't even apply, how can you tell yourself that the people around you are better if you never even gave it a shot? If you put every single person's resume of Apple or Goldman Sachs or any company on a table, and then you put 100,000 more applications on top, literally hardly any of them would get a job. There is a degree of randomness. There is a degree of never giving up. The CEO of Goldman Sachs applied for the internship 5 times before he got in. Warren Buffett wasn't a millionaire until 56. And so if you ever think that person is better than you are, take a moment to realize and to find the success stories of people that didn't find success straight away, and to realize, how can I do it? But not only how can I do it, but how can I do it differently? How can you do it your way? And how can you find lasting success? I think a very important thing about you is your environment. And coming from Jersey and leaving was a very eye-opening experience to me. I only had 20 or 30 kids in my year, 15 boys, 15 girls. Many of the people I played at sports had all been people I'd grown up with and played in my childhood. And so you get a level of where you think you are intelligence-wise, sports-wise, music-wise, because the people that are better than you and the people that are less than you or in the middle, there's going to be very small degrees of change. And within the law of numbers, there's very few people to actually base how good you are off. But when you actually get out of that little pond and you get yourself into the ocean, then you start to see the trends of how much and what success truly looks like. But that is to say that if you are in a toxic job just because of the brand name, just because of people telling you what you should do, you're spending your time listening to family members or friends who are constantly living every day trying to drag you down. Get out of that environment immediately. And the reason is you can spend a life trying to appease everyone around you, to do everything that you think you should do. But those exact same people that you trust and give your biggest secrets to and you trust with your life are the first people that will stab you in the back if they don't have your best intentions at heart. So sometimes, even though it's the hardest choice to make, if you know within yourself that the people around you don't have your back, that is when you have to go in another direction and you have to be yourself somewhere else. And you will very quickly realize that the like-minded people that want to achieve growth and success are much more easily found than you previously realized. Get out of the house and do things. Within your own environment, you're stuck for ideas. You're feeling groggy. You haven't exercised. Getting out of the house inspires you with new ideas. Many people on TikTok literally just copy other trends and do it in their own unique light. If you get out and explore the world, you'll be amazed by all the amazing things that you can learn. A saying my mum would often say is that boring people get bored. And that is not to say that, oh, you're boring if you get bored. But it's to say that if you are bored or if you feel stuck in a moment, you can either accept that as a state of being, or you can make a decision to get yourself out of that. Never get comfortable. The immediacy of when you get comfortable in your life is where you lack the growth. If you find a hard thing, go towards it, not away from that. Because in time, everything compounds. The more you step away from hard things, the more it will bite you in the back. You can choose hard in the short term and have easy in the medium and long term, or you can choose easy in the short term and have hard forever. The difference between those that are successful versus not successful is not that we don't all have the same dreams, but it's the difference between those that are willing to put in the work and those that are not. It's not a crime to dream, and you should always go after what you want to accomplish in the world, but be careful who you tell those dreams to. Write it down, put it on your phone, put it on your wall, and make it self-obvious to yourself that that is where I want to be in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, and make steps towards that. But if someone is jealous of you, if someone wants to drag you down, gets overly competitive and restricts you, tells you you're not good enough, you're never going to achieve that, you won't be, it's amazing how many limitations that will have on you. If you think about person A and person B and person B are equally as talented, but person A has no bounds on their thinking. Person B believes they can only get to a certain level. Person A will outrun, outscore, outlift person B 1,000,000 times over, not because they are better, but because they are bound by their own self-limiting beliefs. Because the minute you get to a point where you tell yourself, I cannot go further than this, you will not go further, not because you aren't good enough, but because you've told yourself that you can't. And that is where you truly get stuck. So only share your dreams with people that will keep you accountable, not those that will drag you down. Money, fame, success, hierarchy, ranking, prestige. Remember what is important. It's great to change after all of these extrinsic goals in life and achieve things that will have your name on a trophy, on a school, on a business, and will leave lasting success. But remember what is the most important. And for a lot of us, it's actually the 3 things. It's the sun, it's the grass, it's the trees, it's the fresh air, it's your family, it's your friends. Whilst it's important to always stick to your goal, and you hear from people like Stephen Barr and Alex Hormozy and all these people telling you to grind and lock yourself away and delete social media, whilst it's important to go and step towards your goals, realize that those that you will be happiest spending time with, learning from, creating memories with you, are the people that you had in the first place, or the connections that you are yet to make. Your immediate friends, your family, those that have your back. Those are the people at the core that you should be spending your most time with, because they're the ones that love you. There's always that thing that, a bus has 50 seats, but a Ferrari only has 2. And there's this misconception that those at the top are the ones with have less friends and that you're on this own wavelength when you're out by yourself. And that might be true. You might have to shut yourself off from the world in order to achieve great things. But when you get to the top and there's no one there with you, don't be upset. Don't think to yourself, no one likes me now. You did that to yourself by cutting them off. It might take you a bit longer to achieve success by spending time with your loved ones, by taking the odd night off to spend with your kids. But you'll be much more thankful for the memories you made and the lasting relationships that you created having done so. If people are watching you, you must be doing the right thing. So often we get embarrassed, we get nervous. That big shot in a basketball game, that final rugby pass, that run, that potential score, that final quarter in business, we feel filled with pressure, with anxiety about everything that could go wrong. But sometimes all you need is that mindset shift to realize that you're privileged enough to have that stress, to have that anxiety, and to be able to make a decision or to do a thing that is worth doing. You can either have that outcome and either a good thing will happen or a bad thing. And for most of the decisions in our life, whether we get ill or not, whether we get hit by a train, whether we go to a great school or get accepted for a thing, a lot of these decisions are actually made out of our control. But if I told you that within a moment, you had a non-zero chance, a 1% chance to change the outcome of the future over a thing that could positively influence yourself and the people around you, you should not simply take that with all the stress and anxiety and think, woe is me, about everything that could go wrong, but think about the things that could go right if you did the right thing. And if the wrong thing happens from that situation, at least you know you tried and at least you know you did your best. I was actually in a five-a-side football tournament one day, and this is quite a funny story. So it was my first time working as an intern at the hedge fund, and I didn't really play football at school, and we had a penalty shootout. And so often I would tell myself, if I get a kick, I'm not going to take it. You know, I've been ridiculed by teachers telling me how bad I am at shooting and scoring, and friends would make fun of me for it. And so you kind of get out of the rhythm of even just taking shots. You know, professional football teams are going more shots on goal, more opportunity to score. But if you keep missing, or, you know, you're being told by others that you're not good enough, you're less likely to score. And we had a penalty shootout in the quarterfinal against a bank. And it was either me to take this fifth and final penalty kick or someone else. And I was really nervous and I didn't want to take it. But when they showed me the other person who could potentially take this penalty kick, I knew that I would be significantly better and have a much higher % chance of making that kick than he did. And so within that moment in time, I took all the anxiety, pressure and stress that I put on myself, but I told myself, what would I regret more? Would I sit in that moment, be nervous as hell, miss the kick, and be more angry at myself that I made that decision, that I tried and I missed? Or be more angry at the decision that I let someone else take the shot that I knew had a worse % chance of making it than I did, lose the game, and live about what could have been? I decided to take that kick. We scored, we won the game, we ended up going on to win the whole tournament. It's not that my penalty kicks themselves were what led to that whole tournament, and that's an example of it going right. But within moments, and when you have that pivotal decision to think about doing a thing, at a job, in education, with your family, when you have the ability to make a choice that's high stakes, yes, you feel anxious, yes, you feel stressed, yes, a ton of things could go wrong, but just for a millisecond, think about what could go right. Because if you don't do anything, that wrong is probably going to happen anyway, so you may as well do your best to make sure that doesn't happen. Only take advice from people that you want to be like. We often talk about the top 1% or the top 0.1%. And yet, if you truly want to become one of those people, why take advice from people that haven't achieved those goals? If you want to be a YouTuber, speak to the likes of Mr. Beast. Speak to people that have got millions and millions of subscribers. If you want to be a banker at one of the top banks, speak to people in the business. If you want to be a coder, speak to someone at Apple or Google or Amazon. Don't speak and let the opinions of others who haven't made it, who aren't interested in the field, drag you down, tell you what you can't do, why it's impossible, why it can never happen. You weren't born to be one of the 999. You want to be the 1 out of 1,000, the 1 in 100, the 1 in a million. So if you want to be a 1 in a million, find the other 1s in a millions, the other 1s in a billions. Only then will you be able to sympathize with, learn from, and be like those that have also done extraordinary things. Social media is the antithesis to achieving a healthy life. So often we are told, do this quick fix, you'll become fitter, you will make more money, you will suddenly go from fat to fit, poor to rich, with these quick, simple fixes. But that's not the reality of life. And it's not to say these things are hard, with the likes of compound interest, with the likes of going to the gym 4 days a week, with the likes of not having a fizzy drink or not drinking alcohol or making healthier choices. It's not to say that these things are hard, but it is to say that these aren't quick fixes which will happen immediately. So if you want to be fitter, you want to be richer, you want to be better off than you were several months or years ago, then you need to make small incremental steps on a day by day, week by week, month by month, quarter by quarter, year by year basis that will enable you to be in a position that you weren't in before. But if you wake up at 2 a.m. and do 300 sets of press ups and you spend hours watching courses online and then you stop, you will never achieve the success that you always dreamt of. It's about small, incremental, consistent steps over time that will bring you the bounce of success that you want. Don't try and please everyone. Similarly, how I mentioned about being 1 in 100, 1,000, a million, a billion, if you want to be the best, you're going to upset people. You could do everything right and someone would still be upset about how you talk, how you walk, how you dress, what you did, because you're doing better than them, or you are potentially taking their spot. So you can live your life wandering and try and step on eggshells over everything you can do. Or you can take that risk. Protect your health and mental health at all costs. Yes, for a few years, you can absolutely grind, work yourself to death, get no fitness, eat badly, not sleep, and put yourself to the brink. But eventually life always catches up with you. My mum would say the body keeps score. And so if you want to be doing what you're doing now in a year's time, in 2 years' time, if you have kids or grandkids, you need to remember that if you want to be capable of thinking and doing things that you used to be able to do, you need to protect your mind and body. And lastly, appreciate every moment. You never know when that loved one or thing will be gone forever. If you truly want to live a life worth living, do things that are worth living for. Create memories, build relationships, do things that will make those around you better off than they were before by knowing you. After my mum passed away, my dad established a charity called the Lulu Racing Foundation, enabling young athletes who don't have the connections or financial resources to become the best that they can be. Since then, we've raised over £100,000 and have helped many young athletes in Jersey, one of which is named Filip, and he recently won 3 medals at the European Championships. We believe at the Lulu Racing Foundation that it's not simply about giving money to someone and someone just simply trying a sport, even though we do that at a grassroots level, but it's enabling someone to have a dream, who doesn't have the connections, who doesn't have the financial resource, but knows they're capable of achieving it to achieve that goal. If you would like to support the charity, the link is in the bio. But charity aside, the mission still stands true. We are all capable of doing great things, whether we're smart, fit, fat, motivated or not. Whatever you want to achieve in your life, you have the ability to do so if you do the right steps necessary. So we may not all become millionaires, we may not all become shredded, but I can guarantee you'll be a little bit better than you were before if you at least try. That's most of my feedback and values that I've taken moving forward, but I wanted to give a last few minutes on how I remember my mum. I remember my mum as the greatest person I have ever known, including my siblings and my dad, of course. But the ability to inspire us every single day in what she was doing, to laugh when we'd cry, to inspire us when we were unmotivated, to push us to believe that we could achieve the things that we always knew we were capable of, but didn't always show it. That was how great our mum was. And so every single accomplishment that we will take moving forward, I will remember her for that. I celebrate my mum every day. Sometimes in the busyness of life, I just close my eyes. I remember going in the sea with her. I remember her smile. I remember her being on a run and being faster than me and encouraging me to run even when I didn't think I could. I remember holding her hand. I remember the smile she gave me when my best friend died of cancer. I remember she'd be a figure telling us we could go on when we get bullied at school. I remember the hug she would give me when I came back from boarding school. I remember seeing her and my dad as the only 2 parents at a sports match and her visiting me more than the people that lived just around the corner. I remember speaking my mind to her and telling her every single thought I had, even if it was absolute nonsense, and her pretending it was interesting even if it was not. I remember her allowing to explore my dreams and passions and enabling me to start businesses, to come up with ideas, to code, to play multiple instruments, to learn new languages, not because I was necessarily going to become perfect at anything, but because she knew that it was better if I tried, and so I would know if I was going to be successful or interested in that thing, having known I even did it. I remember her as someone that would enter a conversation, leaving the other person feeling better about themselves than they were before. I remember her leaving a smile on the parents and the people around her of kids at my school. I remember being stuck in the playground waiting half an hour because my mum would still be talking to people. I remember my mum making friends with everyone she met, even if I just wanted to go home or do something else. I remember my mum making the most of every moment. I remember her appreciating life. I remember her making stuff so simple as leaves or grass on the floor seem like the best thing in the world just because that's what life worth living was. And remember her taking the bad things in life, being sad, caring about things, growing old, being ill. I remember her showing the bright side even of those things simply because she loved living and she loved giving back to the world. She told me she was happy she was ill because she could have been hit by a bus. She told me she valued growing old because she didn't have the life to live. She told me that she didn't mind people sending her millions of messages because she knew that she was appreciated. She told me that she didn't mind having pressure in high stakes situations because she knew they were situations and things worth going after. She told me that she didn't mind if people were mean to you because it told you that you had something that they wanted. You will never meet my mum, whether you have or you haven't in the past. She will never be around again. And it is not that you have to know my mum or research her more, but it is to take the lessons, the passion and the vigor that I am telling you, that I am demanding of you from this podcast into your own life, to call that loved one, to spend time with that brother, that sister, that mum, that dad, that friend, not to realize that this might be the last time you see them, but to know 20 years, 50 years, 100 years before you die, just before you move to that new country, just before you leave school, you graduate, you don't see that friend for a long time. Just before you have the extra 5 minutes to spend building your dream, building your business, getting fitter in the gym. It's to realize that you are capable of love, that you are capable of putting love into the world, that you are capable of doing the things that you're always meant to do. This is not my story of telling you how good me and my family are. This is the story of how you become your best self. And in 1,000 years' time, when people study this period, they know that people like you and me were at the forefront of believing in ourselves and doing better than we were told that we would accomplish. We were all born to be forgotten, but our morals, principles, output, and the things that we will leave on this earth will outlast us. Don't live a life hoping to be remembered. Don't scream from the rooftops about how good you are, telling everyone else why they should listen to you and just how good you are. Live a life worth living. Live a life that you would watch a film and you would be happy with the result. Live a life that your kid or that your younger self would be proud of. Live a life that is worth remembering and being remembered for. This has been Harvey Bracken-Smith. I hope you have a great day. I love you, Mum. You live on forever through me, Max, Freddie, Georgie, and my dad. Be the best that you can be.